All right. Well, welcome everyone. Let me share my screen so we can get started. So I'm excited that you've joined us today in our session on ALEKS and Redbird. This is really where my passion is. I taught math for 12 years at the middle and high school level, and I just wish I had had these adaptive programs to help me. And so I just want to let you know that what you're seeing today obviously is great for special ed students, for students that are really struggling and have those learning gaps, but it's also wonderful for on-level students and for students who need acceleration. So no matter where your students are, these programs are going to provide that intervention for you, no matter what that looks like. Whether that's, students that are truly below grade level, students that are on grade level or above grade level. So we're going to start with ALEKS. We're going to look at two programs in our short time together today. We're going to start with ALEKS, which is our offering for grades 3 through 12. So it goes all the way down to grade 3, all the way up through high school. There's many high school courses available within ALEKS. So not just your normal algebra, geometry, integrated maths, but statistics, college preparedness, math. There's just a wide variety of courses that are available in ALEKS, and it starts with third grade. So third grade content is where we begin, and then we go all the way up to high school. We see ALEKS used heavily in the middle school and high school markets. That's where we see most usage, but we do have customers that use ALEKS for the elementary. We're going to look at Redbird in just a little bit, and that's going to be the program that we offer for K-5. So let's talk just a little bit about ALEKS. So ALEKS is based on tons and tons of research and years of usage. It was initially funded by the National Science Foundation and created by professors, educators, mathematicians, engineers at the University of California, Irvine, and NYU. And we have celebrated over 20 million students using ALEKS over 20 years. So ALEKS has been around, it's vetted, it's research-based. So remember all those things that we talked about earlier today. So the letters ALEKS, A-L-E-K-S, stand for Assessment and Learning in Knowledge Spaces. It is web-based, so you do have to be online. It works off of artificial intelligence. So what does that mean? It does that diagnostic assessment for you. It's adaptive and personalized to every student. So it's going to start by providing students with a diagnostic assessment. It's going to then provide them a personalized learning path so that you can do that progress tracking. And it is a cycle of assessment and learning. So students aren't just assessed once, they're assessed continually throughout the program to make sure, we're assessing for retention as well as learning. And the whole research base for ALEKS is knowledge space theory. So I always like to talk about that real quickly in case you're not familiar with knowledge space theory. So knowledge space theory is really this big, complicated theory, but I like to boil it down really simply. It basically, knowledge space theory says that we all obtain knowledge differently. And the way that we get to that knowledge space could be different, but ultimately we all have 3 zones of knowledge. So we have the green zone, which you see here represented by, that's the knowledge that we know, the green dots. Those are the things that we can easily recall, that don't take a lot of effort. Those are the things that are etched into our memory and we know how to do. And then there's the red zone, which are the things that red and yellow zone are the things we don't know yet and we're trying to get to. Those are the things we still have left to learn. And so most importantly, and we talked about this earlier today, most importantly, there's that zone of learning, that zone of proximal development. That's where ALEKS focuses. Okay, so we give students that initial knowledge check, that diagnostic. We identify what they know and don't know, and then we focus in on their zone of learning, their proximal zone of development, and what we call their ready to learn pieces. Okay, we recommend that students reach 85% mastery of each course. We know that if they reach 85%, they will be successful in future courses as well as on any type of major assessments or things like that. It is our recommendations that students use ALEKS 2 to 3 hours per week. And then we know that on average they can add 3 to 5 topics per hour. So we'll look at that. That'll make a little bit more sense as we go through. So when students log into ALEKS, again, as I said, we're going to diagnose them through what we call an initial knowledge check. So in that initial knowledge check, we're looking for what they know, what they don't know, and then that yellow zone, what they're ready to learn. However, before we put them into that knowledge check, we take them through a tools tutorial because many students have not used the computer to enter math symbols before, math problems, and the tools that they see, answers to the math problems, and the tools that they see may be different than what they've seen in other programs. So there's a short 5-minute tools tutorial. There's no math involved. It tells them exactly what to do, but basically just using the tools for ALEKS. There is no multiple choice in ALEKS, so that's one thing that really sets it apart. They have to do the math. So after we take them through that tools tutorial, they then take that initial knowledge check. So with that initial knowledge check, we are looking for their knowledge space. What do they already know related to that course? What don't they know? And what are they ready to learn from that course? So it looks something like this. They take that initial knowledge check. They'll get questions. So they get up to 30 questions and they will just answer the questions to the best of their ability to assess that knowledge space. And so once they finish and they come out of that knowledge check, they get what we call an ALEKS Pie. So really this ALEKS Pie is a representation of the student's knowledge space. Okay, so this is where we start. This is the diagnostic assessment. This is the results. Now students see these results immediately on their portal, and then you also have immediate access to those reports and that data. And so what this shows the student, anything that's colored is their current knowledge space. It's the things that we've determined that they know as of today. Anything in the gray is what they still have left to learn. Okay, so current knowledge space, the green zone is all of the colored material. The red zone and yellow zone is represented by the gray. Okay, and then there's many things they can do from here. They can click on each slice to see each piece of the pie and what they know within the pieces and all of that. What I want to show you is what happens when they go into their personalized learning pathway. So this is a representation of a student that has made it through the diagnostic assessment. This is their knowledge space here. And so if you remember, we talked about how it's important for students to be working in that yellow zone, that proximal zone of development. And so what you're going to find here is that students are going to start their path, and that path is the yellow zone. So we are not presenting to students anything that students are not ready for, and that's really the major importance behind ALEKS and knowledge space. So you can rest assured that every question that your student sees will be in that ready to learn pathway. And so therefore we are setting them up for success to be able to work through these problems. So they work on the problems that are presented to them. You'll see that it starts with a learning page. And so we know that many times the students don't already know how to do this. They might know how to do it because they've learned it previously, but that's not always the case. So we do provide them access to what we call the learning page. We'll give them an explanation of the problem that they're trying to do. We'll show them the answer, and then over to the right, there are videos that they can access related to the content. Once they have gone over that content and they feel, pretty confident about it, it's then their turn to try it. And so they're going to go through what we call the learning process here. So you can see this is a very similar problem to what my example was. We would ask the students to solve it. Now I have a solve key for demo purposes. Students don't have that. So they're going to choose, likely, unlikely, impossible, and then they're going to press check. And so their whole goal for every topic is to fill up this bubble bar here. And once they fill up the bar, they will have added topics. So when we talk about back to expectations, around what we want our students doing. It's great to have an expectation of students working on a certain amount of topics and adding those to their pie. And so if they miss a question, it will give them the opportunity to fix that answer and try again. If they can't fix the answer and try again, they can't get it correct, it will force them back into an explanation of that particular question. And so the goal is for them to be able to fill up the progress bar as I did here, and then move on through my path. And so you'll see I'll be presented another question. Now, there's lots of options here. We don't have time to get into the full breadth of ALEKS today. We're definitely happy to come back and do a demo or provide you more information, but there are students can choose questions. They're not stuck here on this question, so they do have choice up here at the top, and they can choose which questions they want to work on. But again, ultimately, the thing to remember is that they're only working on topics that they're ready to learn. And then we're keeping up with those in their ALEKS Pie. And so what's going to happen is they're going to begin to see their knowledge space grow. You'll notice that there's a lighter color here on top of the darker color that represents my learning. And so as I learn and I add topics, I'm going to see that represented in my pie here. I'm going to see that knowledge space. Remember, we also talked about how ALEKS is this cycle of assessment and learning. So students would work in this learning path for 5 hours. We know in 5 hours, they should be able to add at least 20 topics. So we're looking for them to get to that 5-hour, 20 topic level. Excuse me. Once they get there, we're going to reassess them. So they will see another, what we call progress knowledge check, giving them the opportunity to show that they have retained what they've learned. And so students will continuously go through this cycle of assessment and learning. The teacher really doesn't have to do a lot as far as when the students are on. So where the teacher is going to come in is where we're looking at the reports, we're looking at the data, and then we're offering support to the students that need that support, or we're making some small groups and providing some small group instructions. So I'm going to show you that in just a few moments. Remember that you have courses all the way down to grade 3 and all the way up to high school courses. And so we talked about earlier today in the session how placement is so important. And you're going to see that come into play here. So it's really important that students are placed correctly in ALEKS. And that's one of the beauties, is that we're able to do that without a lot of difficulty. We can get them in the right place. Okay, so I want to go back and I want to come to the teacher side and talk about what we're going to see from a teacher perspective. So there's lots of reporting, lots of data. This is real-time data. So as the students are working in ALEKS, this data populates automatically. We're going to see it in real time. But there are basically 3 reports that are like daily imperative reports, easy to look at, easy to read. I don't really have to do a whole lot. And so one of those is the progress report. So the progress report allows me at any time to see where my students are in terms of their ALEKS progress. So this first number represents their mastery and the second number represents their learning. So I know that David, as of today, he's mastered 46% of his content and he's added 25% more. And I can delve into David if I want to. I can go into David's name. I can look at where he started, where he is today. I can look at, what progress checks has he taken? How has he performed? And so the data that I can get is very detailed about his progress. I also have the ability to run what we call a time and topic report. So remember, those expectations are important. If I say to my students, I want you to work in ALEKS for 2 hours and I want you to add 10 topics, this is where I can easily go to see how much time they have spent in ALEKS and how many topics they've added. And I can do that on a day-by-day basis. So I can see every day exactly how much time they've been in ALEKS and how many topics they've added. and I can drill down into individual students to really evaluate, okay, what's going on this day that I see 2 out of 4 or 3 out of 6, or 2 out of what, if I see something that I'm concerned about, or I know maybe I've already identified a student and I know that they struggle, I can go in here, I can click on their name, and it will take me to their individual time and topic report. And so what I'll see is for each day, basically what they've done. Blue means that they persevered, they made it through, they added the topic, and orange means that they struggled with something. And so you can see here that when I hover over that particular day, I can then click on the day and see exactly what they did. Right. And so when we talk about helping students and providing that personalization and that differentiation, this is one of the great reports that will help me to do that, because I can actually go into exactly what the students did on a daily basis. I can also, if I click on any of these checks or X's, I will see exactly what time they were in the question. I can even click one more time and see exactly what they did, what the question looked like, what the correct answer should have been, and what answer they provided. So the detail that I'm able to get from this time and topic report is really imperative and will really help me move my students forward. The final report that I want to show you with ALEKS is what we call the ALEKS Pie report. So this really takes all of my students and all of their knowledge space and puts it together, right? It's going to show me by domain exactly what my students know under each domain and who knows what. And so there's lots of ways to use this. If you're talking about, if you teach core and you're providing intervention for your students, then this is really a great way to drive your core instruction, to know what's coming, who's gonna, be successful, who's gonna have difficulty. If you are solely providing intervention, then this is a great way for you to look and see, make those small groups, make those intervention groups, provide that intervention time. And for many of us, we're doing both. We're responsible for core and intervention, right? And so I think that's where the beauty really comes in, is being able to use it both to drive your core as well as to provide intervention for students that need that. And so what I'm able to do here is I can click on any of these domains to open them up. So here I'm seeing a portion of, a portion of the topics that are under dividing whole numbers. And so under dividing whole numbers, I will see these topics that my students are responsible for. And you'll notice that it tells me what percentage of my students have shown that they know how to do that, and what percentage of my students still have left to do it. So the beauty is I can click on any of these percentages that are in blue, and I can see exactly which students. So 64% of my students know how to do word problems with multiplication or division. Whoops, I'm sorry. 36% do not. And so I can see exactly who those 36% are. So it's 10 out of my 28 students. So think about being able to group those students and provide small group instruction for them. And by the way, when you're working in ALEKS, all of these blue, everything in blue is a link. And so not only do you have the ability to make your small groups, but you're also going to be able to click on those links to get examples to use in your small groups. So ALEKS really makes intervention very easy and very accessible for all students. So when it comes to our K-5 students, we have a second program called Redbird. Redbird, very similarly to ALEKS, is going to provide that same type of diagnostic, we call it a course placement assessment, and then move students through the grade levels. It is more elementary, it's more gamified than ALEKS is. It's web-based and adaptive, just like ALEKS. It's going to address critical foundations for algebra readiness. And so Redbird was developed by Stanford University. and has been proven effective for all learners. So it's going to provide that same type of personalization and adaptation that ALEKS does. We do recommend 45 to 90 minutes a week in Redbird. There is a large gap there because our younger students, we say 45 minutes. If they're fifth, Redbird, we recommend for K-5, it does go up to grade 7, but we recommend it for K-5 students. But if I have a student working on 6th or 7th grade material, then I'm going to want them to spend a little bit more time than my students that are working on 1st grade material. We know that students can average about 2 lessons a week, and we want them to strive for a correct first attempt of 65 to 75%. So just like in ALEKS, students start with a placement, what you could call a diagnostic. Kindergarteners do not have a diagnostic. They just start at the kindergarten grade level. But in Redbird, all other students would take that course placement assessment. And from that course placement assessment, we determine what grade level they should start at. And so students in Redbird, it doesn't matter what grade they are technically in, they start according to the course placement activity, either at the beginning or middle of a grade level. Teachers can override that. So just know if you want them to start in 1st grade, you know they should start in 1st grade, you can override that. Once students take that course placement, they are then placed into a grade level. Every grade level has units. And so you can see here that the very first thing that happens is students will watch a video about the unit. They're very kid-friendly videos. They're real world. There's some on music producers, artists. There's just all types of videos that are interesting to the students. They're going to do a 3-item show what you know on the unit so that we can sort of diagnose where they are in terms of this unit and where they should start. And then that's where the adaptability comes in. So they will either from there go into instruction or item sets, depending on how they perform in that show what you know. And then they'll see a concluding challenge. And so really all of our lessons are built around this format of understand, apply, and create. And so during the understand phase, they're going to be going through some different examples. They're going to be seeing manipulatives, working with interactives and things like that to learn the lesson and what's coming. And then they're going to, during the, during the apply phase, they would then be taken into application problems. And here you can see an example of what happens when they miss it. And so it's going to personalize and adapt for them. There are also projects at the end of some units that will simulate evacuations. There's one on putting satellites up. There's this one's evacuating due to a hurricane. So there's all different types. There's an exercise fitness one. So there's all types of embedded STEM projects built in. And then the teachers, just like with ALEKS, will have a variety of different reports. So there's a live feed that tells you what's going on in your classroom. So if students are working virtually at home or in the classroom face-to-face, you're going to have this live feed that tells you who's on, what they're working on, what they're doing. You will also have a snapshot report for each student, which tells you, just like in ALEKS, exactly what they're doing. You can click into it. You can see exactly what the questions were and how they performed on that question. You can also run overview reports, very similar to the progress report from ALEKS, where you can see where students are, how they're performing overall. And there's even standards-based reports available. So teachers, again, are going to have access to a variety of different reports, just like they did in ALEKS, that are available to really progress monitor and drive that instruction that's going on. Redbird, again, just like ALEKS, really does not take a whole lot of effort on the part of the teacher as far as students using it. The effort comes in when we go and we look at the reports and we make our small groups and things like that. So I'm gonna, that was a lot of information, I know. I wish we had more time together because I could talk about ALEKS and Redbird all day. But I'm going to stop there and I guess see if there are any questions. I can't find my chat. There it is. So Hamad, there's a couple of questions in the chat box about ALEKS. Is it a free or payable site and things like that? I'm going to let you handle those. Hamad?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Right, so any questions around ALEKS, I'll drop some contact information in the chat. And depending upon which region you're in, we'll connect you with a sales representative, with a consultant, and they can reach out to you and answer any questions you've got.
Awesome. Are there any other questions that I can answer for you about either of the two programs? Okay. Well, if you want to jump off of, hello to all of those who are joining us. Are probably leaving, so to join the lit session. So we're going to get started in about 3 or 4 minutes with this session. Okay, so we're going to give time for everybody to make the switch and join us.
And I'm sharing the link to the other breakout room for anyone who's already attended the ALEKS session. It might be worthwhile for you to join the other session.
Yes, please. If you have attended this session already, go ahead and join the direct instruction. I think you'll get a good bit out of that. And we'll start in about 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. We're going to start this session again and talk about ALEKS and Redbird.